Hey guys, so someone recently asked me about how I cope with loneliness, particularly as someone with AvPD, and I wanted to talk about that because I want to do better at that. So, I would only describe myself recently as feeling lonely, though the last 7 years I was very isolated. I would consider myself depressed and feeling worthless because I couldn't be self-sufficient because of my inability to interact with people, but I didn't think I actually missed anything about interacting with people. But subconsciously, I was definitely instinctively doing things to cope with loneliness. Mostly what I guess we all do these days, social media. In particular, I found one guy whose YouTube videos I just really like to listen to all the time. Um, because basically it was like a guy who I'd actually be friends with in real life, and he was having conversations that theoretically I might have had with him in real life with himself, if I were less anxious. And of course that doesn't really replace interaction, so as I've become consciously more aware of my loneliness, it's definitely obvious that it doesn't do all that much, but it's better than nothing, I guess. um, Also, as I've become more consciously aware of the fact that I want to actually interact with people, like I've talked about in other videos, I started having a whole bunch of daydreams, just imagining scenarios with a friend or being in a relationship, just one-on-one scenarios with another person, and um, imagining what I would like to do in that situation, and how I would feel about it and all those sorts of things, basically, instead of actually doing anything. And I think that really cuts to the chase here, which is that uh, the number one technique for coping with loneliness is to stop being lonely. Um, it's to, go outside and meet the people that you want to meet. Um, but as someone with AVPD, that's especially challenging, and a whole lot of people consider it very challenging these days in general. So um, I just sort of want to talk about how I, as someone with AVPD who has been very low functioning for a really long time, am preparing to go back out in the world and actually interact with people, and try to have just daily interactions that I'm happy with, as well as friendships and relationships. So I'm just going to talk very briefly and generally about some of the strategies I'm thinking about, basically, as far as trying to make myself feel like I am going to succeed and I'm going to be less lonely in the future. So that's my best way of coping with loneliness right now, and it also helps me plan to be able to do a better job of it in the future. So, um, one of the first things is kind of a weird, random thing, but I like to correlate eye contact with my determination to interact with people. Um, I've always been really terrible with eye contact. It just made me extremely uncomfortable for reasons that I've really not yet succeeded at putting into words. Um, but I think it's a great metric for determination because even though I did want to interact with people and I would have rather I wasn't super awkward and did make eye contact, a lot of times in my past, I wasn't super determined to succeed in interactions and have nice interactions because I would rather they just went away. Now that I'm aware of the fact that, I actually could have friendships and relationships, and discrediting myself less quickly, I am much more determined. And so I'm sort of using my ability to make eye contact as a metric for that. Not because it's actually a useful metric for it, but really just to force myself to make eye contact more with people and to be more aware of the fact that when I'm making eye contact with people, I'm doing this because I am super determined to have a good interaction with this person, and I want them to know that I'm paying attention to them and listening to what they say and caring about it and connecting with them. Um, Another thing, which is pretty obvious, is just conversational strategies. Um, I haven't really had a serious conversation in my life, it feels like. I had friends, but we talked about video games, or we bitched about school, um, or when we talked about anything else, we did it very sarcastically, constantly. And that was mostly my fault. I can't really blame my friends for that. They were following my lead because, like I've talked about in other videos, I used it as a defense mechanism to not have to actually express emotion, as I also did by, deprecating myself, insulting myself constantly. Um, so I really need to get better at having conversations. But the thing is, it's not like I don't know how to have conversations, and to express interest in what people are saying and to continue conversations that other people start and to express emotions. I know how to do all of that, more or less. It's just that it's really uncomfortable for me and I don't feel like I'm good at it, and I feel like people are going to think I'm not being genuine. But I also have to remind myself that that's not true. That's all in my head for the vast majority of situations. And so, really, when I say thinking about conversational strategies, it's not so much that I'm learning anything or coming up with new ways to defeat conversational adversaries or anything like that. It's just, again, being consciously aware of the fact that I need to do those things and it's natural to do those things. So do them. Um, and really along the same lines, I'm focusing on how I feel about myself. I'm focusing on feeling like I'm an approachable person, feeling like I'm a productive person that people would want to be around, feeling like I'm an interesting person that people would want to talk to, and feeling like I'm a smart person. Um, because I think feeling good about yourself is, feeling bad about yourself is pretty much what leads to AvPD. So feeling good about yourself is what gets you out of it. Because realistically, I don't think you need to be too worried about the other person. Obviously, you're talking to them and you're paying attention to what they say and everything, but every person's just another person like you, and you can only be in complete control of you. So I'm really focusing on how I feel about myself and making sure that I feel like I'm a good person, such that I can feel good about the engagements I have with other people, and hopefully they can feel good about them too, and then we'll continue them. Um, so the number one thing I'm really trying to do to that end is changing what I view about myself as being off-putting. Because obviously, as someone with AVPD, I've worried about so many different parts of me being off-putting to other people. Pretty much everything: my physical appearance, my speech, what I was saying, what I might be thinking, things I might have done or will, any number of things, right? You guys know. Um, but the truth is that most of those things were really not a big deal most of the time. And there was one thing that was a big deal, which is that I was so anxious that I was refusing to engage with people, basically. Um, and it wasn't something I did consciously, but whenever someone would say something to me, I would just have an extremely mild response with very little emotion, very few words, spit out as quickly as possible, and sort of a, purse lips thing that looks kind of like a smile, but nobody really thinks it's a real smile. Um, because it's just so hard for me to feel like I'm natural, and so it's so hard for me to be natural and just act like everybody else does. Um, so what I really need to be aware of is just being conscious that um, all of the things I'm so worried about that are taking up all my brain space are not a problem, but they're causing another problem, which is that they're causing me to sit there just staring at people or staring at the floor, and not just taking interactions for what they are, listening to what people say and responding, which is what you're supposed to do. So nothing I've said in this video is like some super secret strategy, but it's really just all about the different ways I'm reminding myself of the silly things that AVPD has distracted me with for so long. I need to be aware not of those things, but of the fact that they're there and that they don't need to be there, and I don't need to be fixated on them. And I really don't need to be fixated on anything. You don't have to come into a conversation like you're trying to win something or anything like that. You just listen to what people are saying and respond, and that's all there is to it. But of course, in our case, it's about reminding ourselves of all the things that aren't important and focusing on that one thing that is. Um, so it's not simple, but it's also not something that I need a whole lot more words than I've shared to convey, I don't think. Um, So, other than that, I'm just thinking about sort of the order of events as to what I'm going to try to actually interact with people. Starting with just basic daily interactions that don't really make me feel less lonely, but just make me feel like I'm able to have basic interactions. And then when I get past those, then I can, start having longer conversations with individual people who I might talk to once and eventually, have friends, try to be in relationships, things like that. So, you know, it's really just thinking about what activities I want to go out in the world and try to do. Um, because I haven't really done anything in so long. So, some of the things I'm thinking about first off, other than, the very basics, when I move into my own place next month, I'm going to start with just shopping for myself and all of that. Talking to people at a checkout is not something that's going to make you feel less lonely, but it's something that I have to do. And I'm going to do it enough times that eventually, even if I don't feel more confident, I'm going to at least feel like I've done this 1,000 times. There's only so many different ways it can go down, and I've seen all of them, and I've handled all of them. So, starting with that, and after that, I'm going to try some other things. I think I'm going to try some volunteer work, which doesn't require me to actually interact with people pretty much at all. I'm thinking of cooking for my local shelter. Which will mean that I cook in my own house and then I bring something to a desk and I talk to one person and then I leave. And it is socialization for someone with AvPD, and it is a good starting point. And it also, at the same time, helps me feel better about myself as a person. And it also helps me tune up my cooking skills, which is always awesome. Um, so yeah, and from there, I'm going to try some other stuff. Potentially, I want to try to run in a 5K sometime relatively soon. I've been running on my own quite a bit, and I am confident enough in the running itself. I think that I could do a decent 5K time right now, but of course, the interacting with people is the really hard part for me. But at the same time, it's a 1 day event. A couple hour event basically. Um, and there's very little talking that is strictly necessary, and then there's more talking that is optional. And so it gives me a good place to sort of see how far I can push myself to engage with people and just have a normal interaction or two. Um, so yeah, that those are the sort of things I'm looking at right now, and I just want to keep pushing forward from there. Um, it's just obviously, even people who don't have AVPD talk about how lonely they are and how hard it is to find people with similar interests and all of that. And I don't doubt that. And I'm sure I'm going to find that out for myself. But um, my focus really is on, thinking of the social goals that I want to achieve and thinking of the activities that will let me find people who might have similar things in mind, even if they're not coming from a place where they have AVPD, because, everybody has loneliness, and especially with COVID and everything, plenty of people have some degree of social anxiety and all of that. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Just, trying to focus on myself and my own mannerisms and, focusing less on what I think is weird about them and more on the fact that I know that I think something is weird about them and I need to consciously push those things out of my mind and just have the conversation at hand. Um, kind of a long-winded video, and you could say that it went somewhat off the original topic of coping with loneliness, but really, this is what I think coping with loneliness looks like. Um, I think as far as without actually interacting with people and without pushing yourself to interact with people and feeling good about the fact that you're slowly taking the steps you need to do it, you can watch YouTube videos and that will give you some feeling of interacting with people. And you can have daydreams and that will give you some more of the emotional feely side of interacting with people, but it's not real. And I think the only way to really deal with loneliness is by interacting with people. And so that's what I'm going to do. And I'm very excited to get started with that as soon as I move out in just a couple weeks now. And also, hopefully, I will be able to do that to some extent with my group. And I just wanted to briefly share an update that so far 3 people have reached out to me about joining the group. And so that's awesome. And I'm not sure whether we'll get over the threshold I originally wanted to start or not, but we will see what happens, and we will do something with it either way. I'm very proud of what I've done so far, and yeah, I'm just gonna keep at it regardless of what happens. It's happening at this point. I'm gonna move out, and I'm super excited. And on that final note here, my next video will almost certainly be from my new house, and I am extremely excited to show you guys around as soon as I'm around. You know what I mean? So yeah. Anyway, see you guys next time.